Now let's build a multiplayer dashboard using WebSockets and React on the front end. So first of all, I will be using this suite to create a React app. So let me go over to VS Code. Go to the client folder. So cd client, clear the console first. Now let's create a Vite app using or for React. So if we go down, we can see npm create Vite at the rate latest. So npm create Vite at the rate latest to create the latest Vite app. So just to give a dot for all the project files to be installed and added to the client folder. Choose React here. I will use JavaScript and we are done. So now let's move to the client folder and see all the files here. Now do npm install. It's installing all the dependencies from package.json. We need to add the socket.io client library here. So if you click where, let's say initialization, and if you go down, we can see something here. Maybe not here. Go back and then click documentation. Then click client installation, and if you go down, we will see how to install it for React using npm. So just do this, and you will see this in the package.json file. This socket.io client here. Now let's start the React app using npm run dev. It's hosted on this link. So if you open this, you will see this. Now let me clear some things from app.jsx, which are this or these things. Just let me clear this and rename this to, let's say, React multiplayer dashboard. Save, and we can see we also don't need this, so remove it. We only need this. And this h1 that we're having, the styles are inside app.css. So I guess we don't need to have this, or maybe if you open main.jsx, sorry, index.css, we should have min height as 100. So if I clear this, they should go on the top, but the body, okay, one thing I don't think we need to remove, just leave this here. Also, let me remove this count state and Vite logo and such. We need the use state letter, so leave it here. We can see React multiplayer dashboard here. Now let me explain how it will work. So for example, let me have two sites here. One will be client. So let me write client here. Where is the, okay, this one. Suppose that this is the client side. So if I make this Excel, place it here. This one is the client side, which is a React app, our React app. Then we will have a server here. So if I make some text here called server. How to increase font size manually? I don't think we can do this. Okay, this one, I think, yes. If we do this, it will be big now. We have client and we have a server. First of all, if you open server.js, we already have a server connected here, or the code to make a connection. So the origin should be now this, to avoid any CORS errors. So just place this origin here. Fine. Now when we make a connection, and we don't need to have this as well. So we now have a simple connection for socket.io on the server using this code. If you want to know how I did this, just go back to my previous video in this playlist. Now, how it will work is, let me explain. So we will create a form on the client side. So if I just do a form here, let's say we need to have a form on the client side. So when a user opens the application, he will see a form which will be input tag, and once he puts his name and the score, it will go to the backend. So form will contain two fields, let's say name, and form will have a name and score. So suppose that a player is playing a game and he wants to update a score like manually, because we're not creating a full game so that we can upload or the scores are updated automatically. When a user is playing a game, he must submit his score with his name. Once he does that, This will go to the server, and this will be captured using socket.io. So I can say this form data will be inside an object. So let me write something like this here. It will be inside an object, and this object will have a name, let's say P1 or player 1, and his score. So score, let's say 1000. So I can make this smaller, I guess. Maybe not smaller. Let's put it here so that we can see. So yes, this will go to the server here, and then this score will be updated on the client side. Like we will send the data from client to server, and without refreshing, we should get them here as well on the client. That was the purpose of WebSockets. So it will go and display them in our application. So I can just put it there, and I can say this UI. Let me have the name and score. So let's say name will be P1 in a table with his score 1000. This is how it will work. Once we will have a form on the screen in the React app, and once a user submits the form using his name and score, this will go to the backend server. Here I am bad at creating wireframes like this, so forgive me. So it will go in the server, and it will be sent back to the client in real time, and it will be updated here on our screen. Now on the client side, we need to have this IO from socket.io client. So you can just say IO from socket.io client. Yes. Now we need to const socket instance equals to IO dot, non dot, just put the address here, just like we did in the previous video. So the address will be localhost, where is it? Localhost 3000. This is the address of our socket instance on the server. This port number that we are using on the client side here. Now let me have a use effect hook, and inside this effect we will run a function. So let me make it function connect socket, not an add function. This will be a regular function. So we can say socket.on connection and a callback. Then we can say just take a param from this callback, say socket, and add it here. Save and then run the function in the use effect hook. So are we running the client? Yes, we are running. So let me check in the console what we are getting. Okay, we are not getting anything because we also need to run the server. So I can just say cd server and node server node.js. It is now running. So refresh, and I guess we are connected here. So if you see this on our server, because we are also consoling here the socket object, it means we're connected. Now the thing we need to do is we are connected here. So let me collapse this console. Okay, now according to this design, we need to just have to create a form first. So if I create a form using input tags, save, we will have an input. Now instead of having input fields like this here directly, we can make a component for input fields. So make a component. What is the spelling of component? Component folder. In here, make a file called input.jsx. Make it a functional component, and then simply return one input tag here. This will have a placeholder, I can say, which will come from props. So if I get props from here, and then the structure let, I can say the name which will be placeholder from the props, then place the placeholder here. Or we can directly pass the placeholder here. So I can say placeholder, then we don't need to do it because we are already structuring it directly. Now let's pass the placeholder here in this input component that we just made. Input from components input automatically imported here. Placeholder will be equal to, let's say, enter your name. And now we can see it. Let's style it a little bit. So I can just give this a class name, and then we can do input field. So we can make one, we can make a file for styling, but let me do it in the app.css itself. So I can just do input field height, let's say 10 rem. Okay, too big, maybe 2 rem. Yes, this is now fine. Then padding left 1 rem. No, 1 is too much, say 0.5. Yes, this is now fine. Also we can remove the outline as none. Fine. We have entered your name, and let me give a width. Okay, do we have input field somewhere here? Because we are seeing the previous styles. The button hover, media, root, these things. Where is the input? I guess not here. Where? Fine. It is better if we don't have. So we can just make width as 20 rem. Like this. Now it looks better. We can type anything in here. Similarly, make one for what for? One for the score. We can enter your score. Now let's have a little bit margin between them. So come to app.css, and here just give margin as 1 rem. 1 is too much, say 0.5. Now we have a name and also one for score, correct? Name and score. This is we are having here. Fine. Now what we need to do is we need to create a function to capture the value from name and score. So I can just say function handle input. This will take an event. Fine. So let me pass them in these components. Handle inputs. Similarly, in the second one as well. Save. In the input, also destructured this, and then just say on change handle input. So we need to have the name and the value. For name, we need to pass some dynamic names. So I can say name, which will be equal to name, the field name, and this will be equal to what? Score. Now get the name prop as well in the input. The order does not matter. So I can say name equal to name. Now if I just come to handle input and do a console log of the event, we can get the event captured from the input field. So if I type say Nishant, we are getting the input event here. We need to filter through it. So I can select the name and the value from this event dot target. So basically we will target the current element and extract the name and value from here. Then we can just do name as value so that it will become an object. So also add an object parenthesis here. If I type something like this, again refresh it, let me add my name Nishant. So we are typing in the name field, so we're getting name. If I type score, we will get score because this field is for score. Now we have a name and a value. Let's make a state using the use state hook, which will be const data, or we can say score set score, which will be an object. So use state and object. So what we need to do is just set it. But first, let me grab the current key value pairs. So I can say current object equals to an object with the properties here, like this. Remove the console log for now. Now we need to set this current object like this. Now if I console this current object, we should get both of the elements inside for one user. So if I refresh, something is wrong. Current object is not defined. Sorry, score, not this current object. The scope will not work outside the function because of closures. So let me add the name Nishant Kumar and some age called, sorry, not age, score called 1000, like this. Now we're getting the data here properly, like this. And now we need to set this data, or I can send the data to the backend server using socket.io. So I can say function, I can say emit data, or I can say send scores. So I can just do a console log of here, fine. And we need to have a button. So I can say, okay, sorry, a button we need send score, or I can say publish score. On click of the button, we need to run the function that was send scores here. So once we click the button, also give it a class name and say send scores, and just give some margin on this button, margin top, say 1 rem as well. Fine. Now if I type publish score, we can see data here. That is the object data from the forum. Now what we need is to emit this data to the backend, I mean the score data. So we can just do it like this. We are having a socket. Using this socket, I can just do socket.emit. This is the score or scores, and then the score. Now when we click this button of publish scores, this will be sent to the backend using socket.emit function. So save it, and now we have to get it here. And one more thing I want to do is make this socket as simple as IO, so that we do IO.on. And now in this we can say socket.on. So we are setting the scores using this key, event key called scores. So I can say scores, and then a callback, we can say scores, and just do a console log of here scores, like this. Now open the terminal in the VS Code, open the server, we can try this out. But first, I don't think we need this console log of socket. Just restart it once. It is running, refresh it here. Let's try it out. Let's enter the name called Nishant and score called 1000 or 10,000. Click publish scores, and it is indeed here. The server, sorry, the name, my name, and the score. Let me create a global object. So and we have to store our scores inside this object. So I can just say scores equals to, what we can say here. Okay, in this scores, we need to store this data. So I guess this should be an array, because we can have multiple scores. So we can say this as an array. So scores dot push this scores. So I can just rename this as player, what happened, player scores, and then push it inside this. Now we can just do a console log of player scores here and remove it, because we can have multiple players, and then we can see it here, but this will not work inside. We need to just have it here. So I guess restart server once more. It is running. Let me open this in the new tab and just do name as Nishant, or just say P1, score 1000 or 10,000. Click publish score, it is here in this array. Now for second one, let me do T2, which is player 2, score 20,000. Click publish score, and now we're getting both the scores here in this array that we are having in this console log. It is now working, I can say. But the thing is, we need to have some ID as well, which will be provided by the scores, not the scores, I can say socket. So this socket is also having an ID. So if I just do clg socket.id, which is a unique ID for each socket connection. So for this socket connection, we are having an ID. For this, we are having an ID that we can see if I refresh both of them. So restart, just click P1, click P1, some score 10,000, click publish score, and this ID is the socket ID that is unique for each socket connection. So we can also store this here. So with the scores, we can do socket ID, which will be ID simply, and just destructure it. Now if I restart it once more, we will have one extra socket ID field, which is unique for each connection. So if I do player 1, some score 20,000, publish it, we have name as P1, scored as this, and ID as this. Try for this one, say T2, score will be say 30,000. Click publish score, and it is indeed here. Now that we're getting our scores here as player scores, we need to emit this scores back to our client. So I can just say socket.emit, I can say player scores and the value player scores. So don't need the console here, we can just see directly in our client. So where to get it? So I can just do it, I guess, here. So we can say socket.on player scores. Okay, what not on, what do we do here? Socket.on, yes, the key name for event key name, and say player scores, then just do a console log of player scores. Now we will see this on our consoles. Better to restart our server. Now refresh them, and let me try this as P1, score 20,000, publish them. Nothing happened. Okay, the thing is, we need to just have them when we click our button. So if I type P1 30,000, publish it, this data will be here. And try this again with different players, say 30,000, publish it, his score will be on the scoreboard here. But the problem is, when we click publish, the score for P1 or in P1 screen for P2 should be displayed in the console. So what we will do is we'll run this emit function on socket using set interval on every, I can say, 5 seconds. Set interval, say 5,000 milliseconds, and do socket.emit so that it emits the scores on our client side every 5 seconds. So that if I now refresh the page, or maybe start the server once more after closing it, it will emit the scores every 5 seconds on our client side. So let's wait, see what we're getting. So currently we have nothing, but if I type Nishant and the score of 30,000, publish the score. Now it is on line number 27, like in app.jsx. And I think every 5 seconds we will get the score updated. But the problem is, in our server, we should have it outside, because it is not getting triggered if we don't submit the score. So I can just do it here as well, like socket.emit. So once we make the connection and submit the form of our scores, we can see our scores. So what we can do is restart the server once more and do this. Let's add P1 20,000, publish, same with P2, say 40,000, click publish. Every 5 seconds you will get the data displayed. See, I mean updated, P1 and P2. Let's add third one called P3. Refresh it and let me just have P3 here and then score of 50,000. Publish it. We're now having score of P3 as well, and it will reflect momentarily in the score of P2 and in P1 as well. See, let me show you the scores and the names. All we have left to do is display it in our UI. So just make a state which will be an array state. So const scores set scores equals to use state and empty array. Okay, one problem is set all scores. Let's make it. Then just do this in our socket.on player scores. To map it, we can just come here after publish button and do scores.map. Let's use a table. So if I come to, I can set table, say HTML, some simple HTML table from W3 schools like this. So map current score and just return this table like this. Let me copy this table code because who will write? So we need the tr first, but the tr will be okay. Where should we show the tr? This should be outside. So just wrap or just copy this entire table and copy the scores mapping function, and we all need to do is just leave one tr which is table row, save it and just do this. So just let me paste it here, and in here we can just map one tr with the okay, this is the name. What is this? It is company, contact and country. So in here we can just have only two of them. Score dot name. Is it name or something else? I guess it is name. Yes. And then the score dot score. We don't need the third td, so remove it. And we need to have t body as well because it is giving us an issue. So place one t body as well. Refresh, it is still here. tr cannot appear as a child of table. Okay, t body should be after table. Now it is gone. Now let's just paste the styling. So if I just copy td, tr and table, also th, place it, and now we have the table. The only problem is I think I am doing some mistakes in our scoring. If I check, we have name and score. Okay, it is fine, but still we are not saying anything. So just make this as name and score. Refresh it once. So let me try entering my name called P1, score 20,000, publish it. Okay, the problem here is we don't need to have background color for this nth child, so remove, and now we will get this. One more thing I want to do is just show the table only if we have scores, otherwise just hide it. So I can just make a condition here, show the table when the length is more than 0. Otherwise, simply show empty fragment. Okay, table, this should be here, else empty fragment, like this, and we're done. Now let me just add p1 score 20,000, publish it, the data will be here. Let me try for p2 score 30,000, publish it. We can see the data of both p1 and p2, and it will be updated automatically. Let's try for p3. So score will be 40,000, publish it, it will be here in some time. Whenever one user publishes scores, it will be automatically displayed for other users as well. And this is how we can create a multiplayer dashboard using React and socket.io.